National Rally Commission and its partners Volkswagen, Ford, Toyota, Dunlop and Sasol. 8 rounds, nearly 100 special stages and more dust, mud, gravel and stones than the average quarry. This is the South African National Rally Championship, where the pace is frantic and the competitors border on insane. It is a world where each corner can either trip you up or give you just that little bit extra that you need to win the stage, or win the rally, or maybe even the championship. But then rallying is also a cruel mistress who giveth and taketh away seemingly without rhyme or reason. And if ever there was a perfect example of just how fickle the gods of rallying can be, then round 6 of the National Championship was it. Welcome to the town of Cullinan, host of the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally. This year's event kicked off with a ceremonial start at one of Tswane's best-known landmarks, namely Fort Klapperkop, on the southern side of the nation's capital. After completing the start ramp proceedings, the competitors drove to the town of Cullinan, where Rally HQ was situated at the Zonnewater Correctional Facility, as it was in previous years. Day 1 of the rally saw 2 stages in the area, each repeated for a total of 4 competitive stages. The Saturday of the event offered 3 more stages closer to the town of Bronkhorstspruit, and again, each of those were repeated for a total of 10 special stages. The total rally distance for the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally came to 167 kilometers. Thanks to the support of Imperial Toyota, round 6 of the championship promised to be a spectacular battle in all classes, which is in part why they decided to sponsor the event.
As you know, the cornerstone of our efforts in marketing is motorsport, and the national knock-on from the Dakar is to be involved in rallying. We've got both Janelle and we've got Leroy doing very well this year so far, and for us it really is just partnering with Toyota to make sure we do well in the championship this year.
With the cruising class S1600 of the South African National Rally Championship running out of chances, the Cullinan event was critical in the fight for overall supremacy. The championship consists of 8 events per year, and with 5 rounds already behind them, the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally offered a real chance to make a move. The roads in the area are relatively flat and fast, though the road conditions are varied and there are plenty of traps to trip up crews who lose concentration or run out of luck. And with the championship as fiercely contested as it is, there was no doubt that all the crews in the class would be going flat taps as often as possible. But then they also needed to, as the championship was extremely close leading into the event. After another second place finish on round 5 of the 2015 season, Matthew Vasey-Lyle tops the standings. The Fragram Toyota Etios driver has been on the podium after each round of the championship so far, and his consistency is clearly paying off. Just 6.5 points further back is the man from the Cape, Paul Franken, who came out victorious on the last event. He has defending champion Guy Bottrell breathing down his neck, with Chad van Beerden and Richard Leek both still very much in touch with the championship. For defending champions Guy Bottrell and Simon Vasey-Lyle in their Yato Tools Toyota Etios, the season has been up and down. They came 3rd on round 1, failed to score on the next round, then won 2 rallies on the trot before bombing out on the previous round. Even so, they were still very much in with a shout.
Yes, we've had a bit of an up and down season. We've had a couple of mechanical failures. We even had one on Monday, so it's been quite a mad rush to get the car ready. We haven't done any testing, so hopefully we put the car together properly.
Paul Franken and navigator Henry Korn drew first blood when they won the opening round of the 2015 season in their Manitou Volkswagen Polo. Since then, they've managed 1 second place and a couple of DNFs before winning again in Port Elizabeth on round 5.
We've had good pace in the Tswane rally in the past, in the last 2 years, but it's a tricky event, so we're hoping to have a clean event to keep our championship going.
But the man of the moment is undoubtedly Durbanite Matthew Vasey-Lyle. The quiet young Durbanite has been in championship contention before thanks to his steady supply of good finishes. Together with navigator Skalk van Heerden, Vasey-Lyle has racked up 2 second places and 3 third places so far this season. And if there's one thing you can count on like sunshine during the Highveld winter, it's that Vasey-Lyle will make it to the end of the rally, usually scoring good points in the process. But he remains typically cautious despite leading the championship.
So we've had a good first part of the season. We've been on the podium every rally. We had a few problems on the cars normally on day one, so we've always been trying to fight from the back. So hopefully this rally will have a good rally and can see what we can do.
Things started at a leisurely pace for the current log leaders. Vasey-Lyle and Van Heerden managed only the 6th fastest time on the opening stage, losing 7 seconds to the early leaders due to a problem with the fuel pump on their Fragram Toyota Etios. They managed the same position on stage 2, dropping back by another 13 seconds, before losing another 7 seconds on the next stage. Clearly not the start they wanted, especially given their status at the top of the standings. Day 1 ended after stage 4 of the rally and saw the Fragram crew trailing the early leader Guy Bottrell by 38 seconds. But it also gave them the chance to swap out the problem fuel pump and gear up for day 2. With the new day came new hope, but unfortunately also new problems. The crew lost 15 seconds on the opening stage of the day, mainly due to the very soft sand on the route, and dropped back another 20 seconds on stage 6. Clearly they were out of sorts, but Vasey-Lyle and Van Heerden continued to push as hard as they could. Miraculously, the crew escaped with nothing more than bruised egos and some stiffness, thanks to the strength of chromoly roll cages, modern restraint systems and racing harnesses. But for Matthew Vasey-Lyle and Skalk van Heerden, their lead in the championship was history, as was the Fragram Toyota Etios, a crushing blow if ever there was one. But the demise of the championship leaders opened the door for the rest of the field to capitalise, and, like a pack of wolves, they were there to strike. For the rest of the crews in Class S1600, things got underway with the 8.2 kilometre stage run on the Zonnewater Correctional Facilities grounds. This was directly followed by the 16.2 kilometre long stage known as Zonnewater Long, situated just down the road from the town of Cullinan. 2 stages to start, with no service in between. With the championship still wide open and everything to play for, defending champion Guy Bottrell and navigator Simon Vasey-Lyle got their campaign off to a strong start. Admittedly, the pair won neither of the opening stages, though they were fast enough to take the early lead by the time the dust had dissipated over the first 2 stages. Pipping them by just 1.6 seconds on the opening stage was Namibian Volkswagen Polo driver Marco Himmel and navigator Gert Nienaber. The pair were blistering in the opening stage, but a puncher on stage 2 dropped them right out of contention. With Himmel out of the equation, it was the Gemsport Volkswagen Polo crew of Chad van Beerden and navigator Nico Swartz who took stage honours on stage 2, beating Bottrell by 0.7 of a second and slotting into second overall. Behind them, 2 other championship hopefuls were posting fast stage times. Paul Franken and navigator Henry Korn were the 3rd fastest on stage 1, just 2.4 seconds off the pace. They slipped back a bit on stage 2, but for Richard Leake and navigator Rickers Ferree in the ATS Ford Fiesta, it was exactly the opposite. They started conservatively on stage 1, but by stage 2 the pair were flying and posted the 3rd fastest time on the stage. first two stages were an early indication of the close racing to come, and with 8 stages still remaining, the spectators were in for a treat. But first, a visit to the Dunlop Service Park at Tswane, where we caught up with early leader Guy Botterill.
Well, we've done 2 stages today so far. I've come second in both of them, and I've got a small lead over Chad, who I think is close behind us.
With just 2 stages behind them, it was Botterill who topped the standings, but only by the skin of his teeth. Van Beerden was 1/10 of a second back, with Potgieter sliding into third place some 9 seconds adrift. Leek and Franken were tied, just 12 seconds behind Botterill. Day 1 of the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally featured only 4 stages, and with 2 done, there were 2 to go. Exact repeats from the earlier session, stages 3 and 4 were sure to be even faster the second time. Botterill and navigator Vasilal dominated the afternoon session, winning both stages in time significantly faster than on their first run. The pair were consistently fast despite the testing conditions.
Went okay, went a little bit quicker than the first run. Car's still in good condition.
Namibian Marco Himmel's Polo lost time earlier in the day due to a puncture, but the youngster was back on pace in the afternoon. He went second fastest on both stages, losing just half a second to Botterill on stage 4.
This stage was good again. I know what the time is, but it felt good, so we keep on pushing.
The stage times remained extremely close further back. Richard Leek in the ATS Ford Fiesta was third fastest on stage 3, just 5 seconds behind Botterill. He went 4th fastest on stage 4, losing just another 6 seconds in the process.
We struggled the first few stages, a couple of mistakes, but this stage looked a bit better, so we'll see.
Chad van Beerden was also still very much in the thick of the action, going 4th fastest on stage 3, and improving by 1 spot on the next stage.
Otherwise we're going nicely, yeah.
Tight racing all round, and with the likes of AC Potgieter in the Ricky B Polo and Paul Franken in the Manitou version of the same car hovering just behind the early leaders. Franken had lost time near the end of the day due to a puncture.
About 3 k's from the end, we were pushing quite hard, but unfortunately we got a flat tire.
And Potgieter made some setup changes in order to go faster.
It's going well. We changed a little bit on the suspension, but it feels well, eh?
With the opening day of the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally behind them, it was Botterill who led by 9 from Van Beerden. Leek was up into 3rd, just 22 seconds behind, with Potgieter showing what he was made of by holding on to 4th, only 2 seconds behind 3rd place. Franken was up into 5th. For Guy Botterill, however, the day had gone perfectly to plan, though he may have been more comfortable with a bigger leading margin.
And I think we were just fortunate we had a clean run, had no punctures or no incidents. And I think that was the trick today, just nice and clean and kept it on the middle of the road. And we finished off, not much damage to the car, and we can attack tomorrow if we need to.
By the time the crews headed home for the night, it was clear that the rally was far from over. And with the battleground moving to Bronkhorstspruit for day 2, there were plenty of upsets to come. With the new day came new hope, and it seemed many of the crews had drawn the same inspiration. Stage 5 was a 17.3 kilometer long gravel section, and it took stage winner Paul Franken in the Manitou Volkswagen just 12 minutes and 30 seconds to complete it. He may have been the fastest of the bunch, but the competition was tight. Chad van Beerden in the Jamsport Polo was only 1.4 seconds slower, with Marco Himmel in another Polo only 0.3 seconds behind him. AC Potgieter in the Ricky B Polo came through next fastest, but was tied on the stage by Guy Botterill in the Yato Toyota Etios. Potgieter and Botterill's times were only 2 seconds off the pace set by Franken, so the top 5 on stage 5 were within 2 seconds of each other. 6.4 seconds back followed Richard Leek in the ATS Ford Fiesta, with Vasilal, Roland Himmel, Andrew Hine and Chris Kutzer all making it through without trouble, if not quite as fast as the leading pack. Up next was the longest stage of the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally, in the form of the 27.2 kilometer long Van Rensburg stage. By now, Guy Bottrell was back in his usual position, winning stages, though he wasn't too full of confidence after the second day's stages.
I actually don't feel like we're racing, we just prefer looking after the car because we can really damage the car in these tough conditions.
He didn't know it at the time, but Richard Leek had posted a time of 19 minutes and 58.7 seconds on the stage, just 4 slower than Bottrell. This was an excellent time by the ATS Ford Fiesta crew, and good enough to move them up to second overall.
Just quite slippery, so we're battling a lot for traction as well.
For Chad van Beerden in the Gem Sport Polo, stage 6 was one to forget. The Pretoria-based driver had been going along at an impressive pace, but his Volkswagen had intermittent electrical problems on the stage, costing him more than 2 minutes in the process.
Clutch was unresponsive, and then when I clutch it,
off and switch
yeah,
on
switch
again.
off on 3 times, and when I clutch it, then it ends up going. When I pull in the clutch, then the rev starts. But when I don't pull in the clutch, it's just got no feeling on the power. I don't know what it was.
The rest of the field posted highly competitive stage times as before, with AC Potgieter making hay while the sun shone for him, though he clearly didn't realize it during the fight.
Yeah, yes, but it was a little bit rough. We're going carefully. We just want to finish today.
Paul Franken in the Manitou Volkswagen Polo and Marco Himmel in a similar car both set fast times on the stage, with Franken coming out the best of the two, posting the 3rd fastest time on the stage. The last of the morning's loop of stages was stage 7, known as the Madlokolo Enterprise. Just shy of 15 kilometers in length, this was also the stage that tripped up championship leader Vasey Lyle. By now, it was quickly becoming clear that only disaster would stop Bottrell and navigator Vasey Lyle from recording another rally win for the season. The defending champion didn't disappoint on stage 7 either, recording yet another stage win. The question was, however, who would be on the podium with Bottrell. Chad van Beerden had lost a lot of time on the previous stage, but posted the 2nd fastest time on stage 7, beginning his slow climb back up the standings. Leek had clearly hit his stride, and together with navigator Rikus Fourie, he posted the 3rd fastest time on the stage, just 3.6 seconds slower than van Beerden. Franken was also still very much in touch, going 4th fastest and holding off a hard-charging AC Potgieter by just over a second. Roland Himmel was also still in the mix, with Chris Kutzer in the Electro Thread Toyota Etios posting the 7th fastest time. So after 7 stages of frantic rallying, the men and the boys had been well and truly separated. With that said, the top 4 were still only a minute apart, and even though Bottrell seemed firmly in control with only 3 stages to go, anything could happen. Leek was doing well in 2nd, and Franken was keeping his own championship hopes alive in 3rd. Potgieter's coming-of-age story continued as he moved into 4th, with Roland Himmel rounding out the top 5. With the morning stages complete, it was time for the crews to take a breather before heading out for the final run through the same stages, bringing the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally to a spectacular close.
But yeah, it's still very tough out there. The roads are very tough on the cars, very sandy, very rocky, and very easy to make a mistake. So we're nowhere near out the woods yet. We've just got to make sure we keep it clean and tidy.
There's an old saying that has to do with counting chickens, and even though few rally drivers are foolhardy enough to do that, a number of the crews in the S1600 class may still have been surprised at just how suddenly and just how hard reality can bite. Stages 8 and 9 were next in line, exact repeats from the morning, so no surprises for the crews, and no excuses either. Not that Guy Bottrell needed any excuses. He posted the 2nd fastest time in stage 8 and won stage 9, retaining his lead and powering on towards rally victory. In other words, status quo. Chad van Beerden was pushing like a madman, and after losing a lot of time earlier in the day, He won stage 8 by the best part of 4 seconds and came through stage 9 only 2.4 seconds behind Botterill. He was making progress up the leaderboard, but needed a bit of luck too. That luck came Van Beerden's way, but one man's luck is another man's sorrow. For AC Potgieter, things actually went wrong even before the start of the stage, when his Polo overheated due to damage to the radiator, which he sustained during stage 7. But even more sorrow was headed in the direction of the second place crew of Leek and Ferree. The pair had clipped a rock earlier in the stage, damaging a bolt on the steering of their ATS Fiesta. The bolt finally sheared, turning the right front wheel tight against the inside of the fender. The rest is history, as was Leek's second place finish. For Roland Himmel, stage 9 was a chance to shine, and that's exactly what he did by going third fastest. He had Chad Krutsier in the Volkswagen Polo Cup some 16 seconds behind him, and they were followed by Paul Franken and Chris Krutsier. And then, almost suddenly, the final stage was there. A second run through the Madlokolo Enterprises was all that stood between Botterill and another victory. But more than that, the 15-kilometer stage was also all that stood between him and the lead in the Class S1600 Championship. And so, for the last time on the 2015 Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally, the crews went into battle. The last 3 stages were run without the benefit of service in between, so things could still go wrong. As it turned out, only 5 Class S1600 cars were still running by the time the final stage started, testimony to the tough stages offered between Cullinan and Broncospray. By now, Paul Franken had realized that a win was out of his reach, and the Manitou Polo driver cruised through the stage in a time of 10 minutes 32.9 seconds. This was a full 2 seconds slower than the time posted by Chris Krutsier and Tommy Krutsier in the Electro Thread Toyota Etios, but for Franken it hardly mattered. Guy Botterill posted only the 3rd fastest time on the final stage, behind the wheel of his Yato Toyota Etios. But as with Franken, the chips had effectively already fallen, and all he needed to do was complete the final stage. For Roland Himmel and Marius Opperman, stage 10 was another chance to show their speed, and they did exactly that, posting their 2nd fastest time on the stage. A good run by the Namibian driver, though the stage win went to the hard-charging Chad Van Beerden and navigator Nico Swartz. The Gem Sport Polo may have had some issues earlier in the day, but by the final stage the pair were simply scintillating. And just like that, the rally was over. In the end, Botterill and Vesilard clinched their 3rd win of the season, with Franken and Korn taking 2nd, 1 minute 46 behind the leader. Van Beerden and Swartz pulled a rabbit out of the hat by taking 3rd, despite losing a massive time on the first stage of day 2. Himmel and Krutsier completed the top 5. Were it not for the electrical problems they'd encountered early on day 2, the results of the Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally may have looked very different. But in the world of rallying, where ifs and maybes count for nothing, Van Beerden had reason to smile.
Yeah, we're happy. I mean, we were trailing by 8 seconds from Guy after the 2nd stage today, and then we had electrical trouble. But we're happy to be at the end, and we'll fight another day.
For the man from Gans Bay, Paul Franken, another 2nd place finish was just what the doctor ordered. That's if a win was out of the question. Despite suffering a puncture on day 1, Franken and navigator Korn held on to their position throughout day 2, and thanks to the demise of Leek, they scored a couple more points than anticipated.
We were a bit off the pace as well. A lot of work for Cape Town, but we're still in the fight for the championship.
But the top step of the podium again belonged to Guy Botterill and Simon Vesilard, their 3rd win of the season. They had concerns about the reality of their Yato Etios' engine before the event, but these proved to be unfounded as the pair powered through to victory. He did spare a thought for teammates Vesilard and Van Heerden after their massive crash.
But unfortunate for Matthew and Sculp, they had a terrible accident pretty close to the end. But yeah, for our championship it's looking a lot better than it did previously, and we're just happy to get to the end of this tough rally.
For Botterill, the 2015 season has been a constant battle, as his championship has been under siege from a variety of competitors. With Vasey Lyle's crash, it may well be that the pressure is lifted somewhat, but Franken is still very much within range and Van Beerden's hopes are still alive. Join us at the Toyota Cape Rally in mid-September for round 7 of the South African National Rally Championship, a visually spectacular event that is sure to set us up for a nail-biting finale in Polokwane for this year's final round. All the action from the 2015 Imperial Toyota Tswane Motor Rally was brought to you by the South African National Rally Commission and its partners Volkswagen, Ford, Toyota, Dunlop and Sasol.